Hello friends, my name is Jastej Singh and I am practicing as an advocate. Today I will be telling you about the wills in India. What is a will? Will is a legal declaration of the intention of a testator with respect to his property, which he desires to be carried into effect after his death. For this, my friends, I want to tell you that a testator is a person who makes the will. Will takes effect only after the death of the testator. Will, it can be revoked and altered by the testator during his lifetime. Friends, I will reiterate the two essential characteristics of a will. Firstly, it must be intended to come into effect only after the death of the testator. Secondly, it must be revocable by the testator at any time. Friends, please remember one thing, that both these characteristics are essential and must be present in a will. One of them in itself will not make the document a will. Now we will come to the definition of dying intestate. Where a person dies without making any will, he is said to have died intestate. There are certain legal consequences. When a person dies intestate, his property is then inherited by his legal heirs in accordance with the law of inheritance applicable to him. It must be noted here that legal heirs generally include close friends such as one's spouse, children, parents, brothers, and sisters. What is the need of a will then? As informed to you earlier, if one does not make a will, then his property will be inherited by legal heirs in accordance with the laws of inheritance applicable to that person. However, most of the people would like to dispose of their property according to their own wishes. So, there arises the need for making one's will. Friends, I will enumerate the advantages of making a will. Firstly, when a person dies without making a will, there is always confusion amongst the family members and relatives as to whether the deceased did make any will prior to his death or not. But if a will is available, the only question that needs to be ascertained is whether it is the last will of the testator or not. The second advantage is that many disputes can be resolved at the very outset if there is a clear disposition of one's property in a will. It will not be out of place to mention here the dispute of late Mrs. Indira Gandhi and her daughter-in-law Menka Gandhi, who were embroiled in a litigation concerning the assets of late Sanjay Gandhi. Had Sanjay Gandhi left behind a will, the possibility of any dispute surfacing between his mother and his wife would have been very remote. Thirdly, by means of a will, one can appoint in writing a testamentary guardian for his infant children. This point needs further clarification. In the event of a death of a parent, the law would ordinarily uphold the right of surviving natural parent to be the guardian of the child. However, if there is no surviving parent, the law attaches great importance to the will of a parent in deciding who to appoint as a guardian. This is a matter of great importance with regard to the future of the children, and therefore this issue must be discussed in detail with the proposed guardian before appointing him as a testamentary guardian. Fourthly, a will provides more room inter se the laws of inheritance, which sometimes do not cater to the special needs and requirements of the members of the family. For instance, a father has two sons. One is healthy, but the other is handicapped due to some kind of disease. The law of inheritance would treat both these children on an equal footing, meaning thereby that if that person dies without making a will, the law will divide the leftover property into equal halves. But by means of a will, one can have somewhat greater provision for a handicapped son, a widowed daughter, or for somebody else. Not only that, by means of a will, one can make some provision for a faithful servant also, a nurse, or a friend. All such people could never receive any benefit whatsoever under the laws of inheritance in the absence of a will. Last but not least, in the absence of a will, unscrupulous persons or members might take advantage from the estate of the deceased. Friends, in the absence of a will, even the most unwanted son who had left the house for disobedience, fraud, violence, he may turn up to claim his share of estate from his father's property. Similarly, an adulterous wife might demand her share as per inheritance law in the absence of a will. Now we will come to the consequences of the absence of a will. As said earlier, if there is no will, the property would be dealt as per the laws of inheritance. For Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs, the laws of inheritance have been codified in the Hindu Succession Act 1956. For Christians, the Indian Succession Act 1925 will be applicable. Parsis have a different law of inheritance. Similarly, Muslims have their own law that has, however, not been codified in any legislation but is based on their religious texts only. There are two major sects of Muslims, Shias and Sunnis. Both of them have different laws of inheritance. Friends, thank you. This completes our chapter on basics of the wills in India.